Crossed. Chapter 1, Volume 1. You know that saying, curiosity kills cats, or curiosity killed the cat? Well, it sure killed this cat. Yeah, for those of you who are probably aware, there is a user by the name of MilanJeftic, 1992. He's currently doing his Halloween spectacular series of comic book reviews, and for his 6th review, he reviewed a comic published, I believe, by Avatar Press, written by a man named Garth Ennis, called Crossed. He apparently read the entire thing. So, as he was describing how sick and twisted and disturbing this thing is, I decided I'd see if I could find it. I had no idea you could read the darn thing online for free. Link in the description for the morbidly curious among you. But before I get anything out of the way, it was so mind-freakishly gruesome that it might be a guilty pleasure for me. I know this thing is sick and bad and just disturbing all around, but I kind of want to read more, even though the first chapter ends in a way that really doesn't want to get you unless you're really curious on how this thing ends. It ends in a way that doesn't really cause you to care. I'll get more into that later, but it was like the thing starts off with this thin blonde dude whose nickname is Shaky, and there's kind of a reason for that. He's writing in his journal, or at least he tries to, before he sees this dude with a red cross tattoo along his face, fornicating with the blowhole of a dolphin. And of course my reaction was, not 2 pages in, and already this thing is giving me something that caused me to go, And this guy who's violating this poor creature's blowhole is spouting some silly nonsense. I forget what it was, but he sounds like he's drunk. And Shaky, of course, is hoping that this guy doesn't see him. Spoiler warning, he does. And freaks out, dives into a boat, starts spouting more gibberish, and I'm just thinking this guy's some crazy drunk. It turns out there's more than one of him. And this only happens after this guy is shot. And what happens when he's shot is, if you're a gore junkie, or if you've seen some really violent, messed up crap, like maybe what they show in Princess Mononoke or Akira, you're used to this stuff. But for some reason, despite the fact that I have seen this stuff, what happens when this guy gets shot, because it's like half his face is blown clean off. It's like the bullet is inserted through his forehead, which blows off half his face. And immediately I'm like, whoa! Jeez! But, apparently after that happens, more of them come, and they spot this poor, I don't know if he's a Brazilian, Native American, Russian, French, I think they said he was French. But anyway, this guy in a rowboat, he's swimming for his life from these crazy cross-faced, half-naked, well, mostly naked people. They catch him, and they sexually violate his anus while eating him. And at that point, I'm like, a part of me is like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done with this thing. But it's like, let's see if it gets worse. Let's see if it. This guy, Gareth Ennis, is that kind of writer, and it just goes worse from here. Next thing you know, these people are getting shot, and their faces are getting blown off, along with hands and whatnot. And I'm like, okay, so, and in a way, I know I probably shouldn't, but I kind of feel sorry for these primally deranged people. I don't even know if that's the right phrasing for this, but I kind of don't care. But, you have these civilized people fending themselves from these cross-faced lunatics. And I kind of feel more sorry for the lunatics than, the people who are fighting to survive. And I probably shouldn't. It probably shouldn't even be that, but it's like, you are killing people you could probably tame and educate. But, around this point, it's revealed that Shaky, they call him that because of the fact that he's a writer. Shaky, Shakespeare, ha ha ha. Boo! Yeah, just boo. Stupid. At least in my opinion it is. But, he writes novels and comic books. Nothing anyone would really consider literature. Or at least the kind of literature that Shakespeare wrote. Fine art, if you will. And, of course, the chapter ends with, you have one of these cross-faced people, he's got like a knife in his mouth, and he's crawling towards the civilians who've been killing his kinfolk. And he gets his face blown off. Literally. The same thing that happened to the dolphin fornicator. Bullet into the top of his head, and his face and eyeballs just get... And for me, it's like, that ended in such a way that it's like, I'm not really invested to see what else happens, because you kind of get the point that, you kind of get this idea that, they're gonna survive either way, but it's gonna follow this formula of people get horribly mutilated by these cross-faced barbarians who also get brutally mutilated and murdered. Mutilated and murdered. See, this thing is so messed up, I can't even speak right. But yeah, it feels like, because when you're writing a story like this, and I think this is the kind of thing that Warren Spector was getting at, even though I completely disagreed with his entire diatribe on DICE. Basically, you have two kinds of people when you're writing something this dark and gruesome. You have the people who are doing it intentionally to just gross you out for the sake of grossing you out. And then you have the people who are kind of, trying to voice their opinion through their art. And And like Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, for example, at least with that in Invader Zim, Jonan Vasquez adds some other elements that are kind of adorable and hilarious, and it doesn't feel like you have all of these gross things, these gross and disturbing things being flung in your face. With this first chapter of Crossed, it feels like that. It feels like you have this superficial grossing out for the sake of grossing out and disturbing for the sake of being disturbing being flung at you, which honestly is admittedly is like how I was when I was like 12 to 13. It literally lasted for like 2 years for me, but it kind of feels like that. Maybe later on, if I keep reading on, it may feel like that. But in that sort of sense, I kind of see more Inspector's point. More on that later in a different video. But yeah, it's
a trip, man. It's a trip. Yep. Crossed. What can one say but shit, son? It's a thing. A terrible, horrible thing.